Good afternoon, and welcome to this session covering version 1's Oracle Cloud Managed Services function. My name is Rachel Blake, and I'm the Oracle Cloud ERP Managed Services lead. Version 1's Cloud Managed Service practice. So we have 135 dedicated ERP Managed Services resources across the UK, Ireland, and India. We support core UK hours, European hours, Eastern Standard Time, and India. We can also cover additional support hours, including 24/7, which is available on request, should that be something your business needs. Our processes are ITIL aligned, and we're accredited for ISO 27001 and 20000, for which we are externally audited on a twice-yearly basis. To complement the above, we also have onshore service delivery and account managers. I'm just going to talk a little bit in general terms around Oracle ERP and HCM Cloud before I dive into the detail of version 1's specific managed services offering. Oracle are constantly innovating, and they deliver those innovations as part of their quarterly release cycle. In 2019, for example, Oracle spent over £5 billion on research and development in order to enhance the functionality of their cloud SaaS offerings. Security patching is automatically delivered as part of the cloud SaaS subscription fee, rather than having to pay a support cost from a partner for patching. Oracle SaaS customers all run on the same version of the software, so that ensures that you receive a high standard of support. You also have a clear roadmap for adoption of innovation and new functionality via those quarterly releases. And Oracle SaaS is a fully integrated solution, with modules being having the ability to activate modules as and when required. You can see from the Gartner Magic Quadrant included on this slide on the right-hand side that Oracle is the leading cloud ERP software provider. Oracle SaaS customers automatically receive all new functionality on a quarterly basis, and I will cover that in a lot more detail later on. So the cloud quarterly SaaS release process. So in terms of an introduction, these are mandatory quarterly updates for the SaaS cloud service, and they're named after the year and quarter that they relate to. So 20C was the third release in 2020, and 20D is the final release, which is being applied in November for the Wave 1 customers. And I'll talk a little bit more about the waves later on when I show you the calendar on the next slide. The Wave 1 schedule has those releases being applied in the months of February, May, August, and November. And those releases are applied to your non-production or staging environments on the first Friday of the month, and to your production environment on the third Friday of the month. The updates start around 9 p.m. on the Friday night. Watch out for time zones. And they're typically returned to you, services returned around noon on the Saturday the following day. The exact times do depend on the patch size and other parameters. So this is the 2020 Cloud Quarterly SaaS Update Calendar, showing you the dates for Wave 1. So Wave 1, as I explained, the releases are applied in February, May, August, and November. You can see the dates there for Wave 2 and Wave 3. And what you can see on this calendar is you can see the dates for 20A, B, and C, which have already been applied. And 20D, the dates are Friday the 6th of November for the staging or non-production environments, and the 20th of November for the production environments. So which wave? If you're a payroll customer, you must be in Wave 1 due to the payroll legislative updates. Aside from that, you can choose to be on wave 1, wave 2, or wave 3. If you choose to go on wave 1, obviously you're an early adopter and therefore more likely to hit any issues. If you elect to go on wave 3, the likelihood is that more of those issues will have been resolved by the time you take the release. Obviously, by going early, you are benefiting from that new functionality sooner. So releases cannot be delayed as such, but you can temporarily move to a later wave. So if circumstances dictate, for example, that your resources are light in a particular month, and you want to defer that release to wave 2 or wave 3 for a particular release, you can do that on a temporary basis. You can also elect to have concurrent patching, which sometimes works well when you're in a project environment, so that your prod environment is patched at the same time as staging. Aside from the quarterly releases with cloud, there are a number of other updates. So there are the monthly maintenance packs, which include cumulative major fixes. Occasionally, they will also include new functionality, and they're often turned on during a project implementation so that you're benefiting from the latest fixes. These monthly maintenance packs are optional, except for payroll customers. And it's something that version 1 can also provide an impact assessment for, as well as doing so for the quarterly releases. Those monthly maintenance packs follow the same path or follow the same date as the quarterly releases. So they're applied on the first and the third Friday of the month. Weekly patches as above, but therefore the high priority fixes. And just note there that all the fixes that you have received since the last patch was taken will be rolled up in a given weekly fix. And there's no formal release notes as such. The payroll legislative patch is also applied once the budget is released on a weekly basis. Vertex, US tax and address files, national language support, infrastructure and data center updates, those generally require zero downtime, and they also require very little or no interaction from either the customer or your system integrator, your support partner. So now to talk a little bit more about version 1's specific cloud managed services offering. Version 1 provides managed services across HCM and ERP modules. Level 1, Level 2 and Level 3 support can all be provided. And we have functional expertise across the full suite of ERP and HCM cloud modules, including PBCS and Taleo. We have a strong set of resources with significant experience across the technical and reporting space for the Oracle toolset, including Oracle Integration Cloud, Oracle Analytics Cloud, Autonomous Data Warehouse, and the reporting capabilities such as OTBI, BI Publisher, SmartView, and Financial Reporting Studio. We can also provide environment and release management services for you, looking after your PaaS environments and also working with you to create a calendar for your SaaS quarterly releases and managing the refresh process for you. We can provide a flexible service offering and work with you to align that to your specific requirements. We provide an on-site quarterly health check, quarterly release planning, which includes an impact assessment tailored to your specific solution, a webinar taking you through the new features and enhancements that are coming with that release, regression testing services, manual at the moment and progressing to automated, and also advice and guidance on the development roadmap. Version 1's cloud managed services. Just going to talk to you here about the flexibility of our service offering. So we can tailor that offering very much to meet your own requirements, including factoring in and taking account of things such as the level of your in-house expertise and available resources. Our processes are ISO accredited, including our proven transition process, which has been used across hundreds of customers successfully in the past, not just in the Oracle space, but across a number of other technologies in version 1. We can provide level 1, level 2, or level 3 support, or all three, whatever is required to support and complement your in-house teams. We can manage the whole quarterly release process for you entirely, or we can work with you in a blended manner if that fits your requirements better. And that includes activities such as scheduling the refreshes, creating the impact assessments, and regression testing. We can manage the Oracle relationship for you, so manage Oracle service requests. We can set up weekly calls with Oracle to maintain the traction on your top issues and make sure you're getting the response and the traction that you need to resolve those SRs that are really giving you pain and causing most business impact. We also provide services around training materials, webinars, and we can do classroom training in a non-COVID world. Small changes and enhancements are something else that we also offer as part of managed services. Small configuration changes, reporting requirements, enhancements to existing reports. Those kind of things we can pick up for you and deliver quickly and effectively. This example service matrix shows a typical model and the activities that we can provide for you, the activities that are Oracle's responsibilities, and some of the activities that are typically performed by the client themselves. So level 1 support is something that clients often take on themselves, system admin type activities such as creation of new user accounts and assigning roles to those accounts. It is, however, something version 1 can do for you. Level 2 and 3 functional support. Sometimes clients will want to provide a certain level of 2 support themselves. Level 3 support tends to come to us as version 1 because they tend to be the more complex, detailed issues. But we can provide both. And again, we work with you to define what best suits your requirements and what you have in-house in terms of resources. We provide level 3 technical support, including integration with third-party software. Master data management on Oracle is typically managed by the client. Moving down into some of the quarterly patching activities, release readiness documents there shown as being published by Oracle and reviewed by version 1 to produce an impact assessment. We've got version 1 shown there as providing the walkthrough of those new features, the webinar. And in this example, we're showing a blended approach of regression testing with the client doing some themselves and version 1 picking up some of the testing, perhaps in the more complex areas. We provide environment management services and management of Oracle SRs and fixes, configuration issues, anything that has come out of the regression testing of a quarterly release. And the management of those small requests for change that I mentioned on the previous slide. That is just a typical model, but we work with you to make sure that model best fits what you need and what you have in terms of in-house resources. So the on-site quarterly health check. The process basically starts with your service delivery manager liaising with you to review the areas of focus that you need that on-site visit to support. So essentially you'll have either a functional or a technical consultant on-site for 1 day per quarter to review processes, common issues, and areas for potential improvement. That area of focus will be agreed with you in advance, So it may be that you need a functional consultant, for example, to sit with your AP team and follow their processes end to end and come up with recommendations for improvement. It may be that you want to look at your overall reporting strategy, and therefore a technical consultant is best placed to come on site and look at that with you. After the on-site visit, you'll receive a health check report with recommendations issued to you within 2 weeks of that on-site visit. And as a follow-up, we'll schedule a call with you. So your SDM and the consultant will walk you through the findings in that report and recommendations, and basically give you an opportunity to explore those findings and come up with an action plan to progress any suggested recommendations. So this section is drilling down further into the detail of version 1's Cloud SaaS quarterly release process. So impact assessment. The start of the process is the release of the Oracle release notes 6 to 8 weeks prior to the release being applied to the Wave 1 customers' non-production environments. When those release notes come out, the version 1 teams will review them and create an impact assessment tailored to each customer's specific solution based on the published material from Oracle and the knowledge that the consultants have built up of that customer's solution. The items in the assessment are grouped into mandatory, opt-in expired, and non-mandatory changes. The opt-in expired items are essentially those items that were previously available as an opt-in, but have now, the opt-in for those has now expired. So essentially they have become mandatory in this release. The quarterly release will include the monthly maintenance pack for that month. So it'll include the fixes that I mentioned earlier. Alongside the development of the impact assessment, the tailored impact assessment, the functional consultants will prepare the slide deck that they will use in the webinar to take you through the impact assessment. And that will include screenshots, and they'll try to bring those changes to life for you and answer any questions that you may have. This is a sample impact assessment, or a section of an impact assessment, apologies, from the latest release that we've completed that process on, which is 20D, which is due to hit non-prod environments on the first Friday of November. So this is a subsection of the financials impact assessment for 20D. It shows the product in the left column, the feature in the next column, and that will link to the details from the Oracle release note for that specific feature. A description, the type of change, and most importantly, the impact and how that feature impacts your specific solution. It also includes a link in an appendix to any configuration changes that are required to enable that feature, and also any roles, security changes that are relevant to enabling that feature for your users. The walkthrough of new features, or the webinar, that's scheduled usually for approximately 2 to 3 weeks before the release is applied to non-prod environments, to give you a heads up of what's coming. So in that session, the functional consultants take the key stakeholders through both mandatory and non-mandatory changes. The non-mandatory changes can then be considered by those key stakeholders for potential future release and added to their roadmap in line with their business priorities. Those optional changes can be requested via the CR process. And what that walkthrough does is it informs not only items that may need to be considered or the customer may want to consider for future release because it adds business value to them, but it also informs any additional testing that the customer might want to do based on the items in that release. This slide shows a sample of what a walkthrough slide looks like. So this webinar that we take you through, showing you the new features. So you can see there for this item, there's a screenshot there showing what the screen actually looks like. The banner there tells you that it's a 20D item, that it's a mandatory change, and that it's in the payables area of the solution. Now this feature is useful because it allows the user to drill down into transactions relating to a payables variance. Regression testing of quarterly releases. So as you've seen from the calendar, there's a 2-week window for testing. So it's really important to focus and be ready to test all of your regression tests as soon as possible in week 1 to allow maximum time to identify any issues, raise Oracle SRs, track those to conclusion, and also agree any workarounds and share any user comms that might be required as a result. Version 1 can provide that execution of regression test services for you if you don't have the capacity to do that yourselves. In that instance, where we provide those regression test services, we agree a set of regression test scripts in advance with you, usually based on what was previously perhaps a UAT test pack or similar, or we can recommend standard regression test packs based on our experience of this process for other customers. Version 1 will execute all the tests, record the results, raise defects, and raise associated Oracle SRs where required. And we can do that in a format to suit you. As part of that process, we'll also proactively manage the SRs with Oracle, making sure you get resolution or workaround in time for the production go live. And the other part of this process that is useful in terms of our offering is that obviously we provide this service for a number of customers. So what we can do is we can share details of defects that one customer has found with a given release with other customers so that they can focus and prioritize their testing effort in specific areas if they need to. This slide shows a sample section of a regression test plan covering the procurement area. So it's just an example of some of the standard tests, or part of the standard test pack that we can work with you to build a regression test pack that essentially covers your core processes. Our regression test process is currently manual, but we are in the process of progressing a pilot project to create an automated regression test pack. That's been progressing very well over the last couple of months. Most of the financial modules are covered, and there's a roadmap to extend that across all modules. As well as being able to automate regression tests, a standard regression test pack, we also have the ability with this tool to create customized tests specific to your solution. One of the key advantages there is obviously a reduction in the execution time to run all of those regression tests. So essentially you can run the full test suite on day 1 of your 10-day test window. And that gives you that remaining window to identify your defects, raise Oracle SRs, track those to conclusion, update documentation, and share any comms that you need to with your user community. There's a dashboard under development for this tool that will show you at a glance key management information around the test matrix. So total number of tests, test passed, test failed, test still to run, etc. So you've got that at a glance view of where you're at with that test pack. This slide just shows an example quarterly patching matrix. On the left-hand side, you can see the various activities involved in the quarterly release process, most of which I've talked about already at this stage. And then on the right-hand side there, you've got the columns indicating there who's responsible for each of those activities. So the release readiness document publication, and the application of the release to test and production pods are obviously Oracle responsibilities. The other activities, in the main, most of those things we can and do for some of our customers. So we can either provide the full service for you, or we can work with you in a blended model to do some of these things with you and supporting you. So why version 1? Version 1 are a core values-driven organisation, and all of our employees have the same core values. And that's apparent in how we, in particular, our customer first core value. And that's apparent when you deal with anyone from the managed services team. We've got deep expertise within that functional and within those functional and technical teams and across DBA that have been built up over years of supporting Oracle products. There's a large number of the team who are based onshore in the UK, including service delivery managers and the assigned account manager for each customer. We're easy to do business with you, and we're effective in everything we deliver. We listen and we act upon your feedback. And we have a quarterly customer satisfaction survey, which we spend a lot of time reviewing and acting upon. We want to know your feedback. We want to know what we're doing well. We want to do what we're not doing so well, and to work with you to improve that, so that we're constantly improving our service to you. We have a 98% customer retention percentage, which is excellent, along with our 98% employee retention. Our employees love working for version 1. Successful track record of Oracle managed service delivery, which we've been doing since 1996, initially in e-business, and now of course in cloud as well. And we have an ISO accredited transition process. So that's it for the presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to speaking to some of you soon. Thank you very much.